JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Friday, November 14th, 326. On this fine afternoon, talk really quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from there. S&P still up a tenth of percent here, chopping around all the way up to 675 just a little bit ago. Then we had a pull. And yeah, I mean, headlines today, if the market closes right now, will be markets closed slightly in the green. But if you're a trader and you've watched the action the last 2 days, it's been anything but. Is this the finally kind of the bottom here? I wouldn't even call it the bottom because we're still only stone throw away from all-time highs. But is this the end of the turbulence, and then maybe we can start melting to new all-time highs, or is this the start of something, right? And I say that in context too because the Dow just hit all-time highs this week. So what? Yeah, I think it was Wednesday. Or was it yesterday? I don't know if it was at the open yesterday, but needless to say, just gonna be really quick rant. I'm gonna try and have a week ahead up Sunday night, just with some ideas. So next week, so the big obviously thing that will be talked about this weekend, Nvidia earnings. So that'll be on Wednesday. They just announced the weekly jobless, not the weekly, the September jobs report will be out next Thursday. So backwards looking number by now, by by next week, that is going to be either just confirming or surprising folks, right? Either confirming the continued weakness in the job market or surprising folks with strengths, right? And then if that does something, then creates more uncertainty. So it's kind of like to me like almost a non-event until we get closer dated data, like the CPI. The first read on CPI, I think the fresh CPI read will be the most important. But excuse me, crazy action today. It's one of those pretty much a carbon copy of last Friday. Pretty much exactly the same time I'm on audio, and the S&P was in the green after having a $10 intraday swing. So last Friday broke under the 50-day moving average, rallied in the morning, went to the green in the afternoon, closed slightly in the green. Then that said rally off Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Out of breath already. This happens in the afternoon. I don't know why. And then today, similar story, right? Open in a red, gap down just a little bit, and then a $10, actually $12 reversal, 675 on the SPY. And then you look at the headlines, and it's the same headlines we've been talking about. So, nice little piece. This is The Economist. Nice little cartoon here, talking about tariffs. Right? It's funny how the tariffs all of a sudden they're taking a back burner, and now we're talking about AI, right? The capex spend. Um, Also funny of note, it's coffee, right? Supposed, I guess, I don't know, it was yesterday, Besson, one of those folks came out with comments that they're going to roll back tariffs on coffee and some of these other produce items going to help prices at the grocery store. But if, if it was the other way around, it was more tariffs on coffee, it'd be huge headlines. But because it's reducing the tariffs, doesn't create fear in the market. It's not clickbait. So we're not allowed to talk about it. And if there is any articles, I think CNN had an article earlier today about the coffee and saying, "Oh, this is just them finally admitting that tariffs raised prices and whatever." I mean, again, I've been saying it for a while. I mean, obviously, tariffs going to raise prices. That's like, it's just the amount and the impact I think was overstated, but we'll see. But anyway, nice little article there in the Economist. All right, so that's overall marks. I don't want to get too much there. 673, big spot. I mean, here we are, 679, and then on the way down, I talked about 661, but 50-day moving average 668. Hopefully, we just close above that today, and then maybe get some commentary into the weekend. So just quick on individual trades, and yesterday you could have been full on bear, right? You could have got all the puts intraday, saying, "Oh, here comes the big crash everybody's talking about." Overnight futures sell off, markets are lower in the pre-market. You think, okay, confirming your bearish bias, right? And then you load more puts at the open, and then boom, we get the reversal, right? And you know, the thing is with the market is like you can be right about being a bear, like Michael Burry on The Big Short. He could be right. Palantir might be $50 in a year or 6 to 10 months, but the hold part is the hardest part. And then the bounces, right? The market, there's so many passive forces with the market. I always talk about this, right? It's like, you have pension funds, you have the ETFs, you have, 401ks, fund managers, everybody puts money to work. It's just a normal thing that happens day to day on the markets. It's not like, it's all these passive forces, other people's money, right? It's not like someone comes out and they're managing money in their own money and they're not putting money in their 401k this week because the market, some tariff news or whatever. No, it's just how it is, right? And then you have the matching portion on companies matching the 401ks. So my point or rationale is that there's always upward, or at least buyers, right? There's always the buyers, just a matter of the selling part and how many sells are going to be. So just my point is very hard, even if this is the start of some big pull. And with the capex, whether it be the capex, the AI, the tariffs, inflation, whatever that catalyst is going to be, it to hold the puts for the final, wherever that bottom might be, it's so hard, right? So that's why I keep talking about the support resistance on the SPY. Continue to use that as kind of like the guardrails, and then being selective, trying to control the risk with options. The thing about options is the leverage, right? Small can become big very quickly, but also big can become small very quickly. So you got to be able to manage the risk. So all right, rants for other days. I don't have too much to talk about, but that's kind of just my thought here on this morning, right? I mean, I was lucky yesterday afternoon, got those SanDisk puts, closed them all out for close to 1,000%. In hindsight, the market's gapping lower, and this morning you're like, oh, maybe I should have held on to them. But SanDisk, I was talking as being like a proxy for the risk environment, and it was like it was gapping higher at times in the pre-market, open red, tested red, and then reversed. But anyway, in hindsight, of course, could have hold, but that was just part of controlling risk. And then this morning, same thing. ASML, was not, I think it was closed 11.14. Then it's gapping lower in the pre-market. Maybe it's 9.90 at 6.30 in the morning. And I'm like, still have 3 hours left in the pre-market. Who knows? And then the plan was to lock some in at the open and ride some. So I locked some in. It gets down to 680 or so, 980 or so. It looks like maybe the market's going to bounce. SanDisk was finding a bid. I'm like, things are going to bounce here. Close the last out for 1,600% or what have you, and then start flipping it around, right? And again, in your mind, you can be like, the market should be tumbling right now. I mean, what was the reports yesterday? The credit default swaps on Oracle, just all these different bear things that come out when the market's weak, right? It's just how it happens. What was that report that you know MicroStrategy selling their Bitcoin, or there's all these different things. They only flare up when the market's selling off, right? Or at least they louder. All those calls, all the negative calls. So to me, I'm looking at SanDisk, and it was 244, whatever. And I'm looking for inexpensive lottos. I'm like, if it bounces, premiums are probably going to come into the calls, even if it doesn't move too much. I was looking at the 270s, and I couldn't get those. They were like 70 cents. The spreads were wide. 275s. Try to get some. There was like 30. I put them in at 30 cents. While I'm doing that, I'm looking at the 275s. And then I moved up to 40. I got filled at 37 and 40. On the 270, 250s, by the time I go try to post it in the chat room, the thing spiked up in a matter of like 30 seconds. They were like 60 cents already. The 275s were still 50. I said, oh, those might be good. And then sure enough, it goes on an epic squeeze. So I was able to close them out for 100%, 200%, and then whatever the last little batch was I closed out for. In hindsight, I've tried to dabble a little more. I don't know. It's been like an exhausting 2 days. So I'm like, I'm not trying to ruin a week. Also tried to do Reddit, right? And same thing with Reddit. I was looking at the 200s. They were like 50 cents. And then it was bouncing around. It was like 192. I'm like, I don't want to put too much risk on. That, of course, goes to 196. The 200s are 70 cents. So then I went and got those 205s for like 18 cents, whatever. It's kind of like a hero zero, because if it runs, it's not going to matter if I get the 205s, the 207.50s, the 210s. They're going to be multi-bags, and I might as well just have a very small risk on. So Reddit obviously didn't pan out. And then Oracle more in the afternoon. I think I got those in the afternoon. Similar thing. I mean, if you look at Oracle, I mean, I was talking about this morning on the rant. Just crazy to see where it's come from, but at some point you figure it's going to bounce, right? And I was watching, I'm like, this thing might go to 230 today, especially if the market finds a bid, or over 230. Got those 230 calls. It gets to 226, 227, and then it just couldn't break through. So then I'm watching. It seems like this is what always happens when you have the calls. When you're watching the calls, the stock will go up $1 and the calls will go up 50%, right? But if you're in the calls, the stock goes up $1 and the calls go up 10%. This is just how it works. So of course I'm watching Oracle, and every time it goes up, the premiums come in, but then when it goes down, they come out more. So didn't want to be in a spot where I lost that trade, took them off for a small gain. And then, I've been looking at other trades into next week. Lemonade, I mean, I still have those 100 strikes, but makes no sense. I'll wait to the end till next week. Same with Solar Edge. I mean, sitting down here 36.48. I'm looking for more strikes there. I'll be patient. I want to see the weekend, right? And see how things play out into next week. But then Reddit, and I want to have some other positions in Reddit, because I think at some point there's going to be some rework deals in regards to their data deals with OpenAI and Anthropic and all those other AI models that need data from Reddit, right? So at some point there's going to be news. It can be up 15, 20%. Just my thought there. And the worst part of that thought is when it happens, I want to make sure I'm in, because I'll be you'll hear noises, and I'll be me banging my head up against the wall. So just later in the day, I got those 230s for next week. I'll just continue to hold those. And then obviously at the end, Monday, Tuesday, if it rallies, I'll lock some in to cover costs. And that's it. It's kind of like going to be in a selective market here. It's easy to get aggressive on one way or the other. I mean, people posting every time the market dip, looking for opportunities. I'm still kind of on the fence here, and we'll have to see how the weekend plays out. We'll have to see Nvidia earnings. That'll probably be the telltale signal. Like every week, Nvidia, every time they have earnings, it's a monster beat and raise, right? It's just a matter of how the market reacts. And if it's a positive reaction, maybe that bodes well into the end of the year. If it's negative, maybe that's the start, right? So I think that's it. Other names disappointing me. Obviously, I mean, take a look at Turn Pharmaceuticals, Turn and Burn, $4, $6, $8. Here it is at 23 bucks. I was looking at the November 20s earlier last week. I probably should have pulled the trigger there. VKTX, I have till next week on my 55s. I'll continue to hold those. I mean, other names in the GLP-1 space, the Altimmunes, GPCR, they're all going. So at some point, maybe there's more M&A before the end of the year. And then I just posted a chart in the chat room, just looking at, with all this AI hype and CapEx and all the bubble talk, whatever, there's still names that are doing well. And, healthcare has been on a strong run, especially some of the bio names. So even if we do have some kind of pull, you just hope there's other sectors that can kind of buoy or get the other leg of the table, right? And that chart with Amazon last week, the big sell-off last Thursday, Amazon was up like 10%. The market was selling off, and it was like Amazon was holding up the market. So hopefully some other sectors can kind of do the heavy work while some of these other AI CapEx names find some support and maybe they get some more profit taking. But are we in the start? At the end of I was talking about it on like Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm like, there's so much chatter about this. I'm like, maybe there's more to this AI cycle, and maybe there's more FOMO that comes in the coming weeks. So I'm not dismissing it, right? I think there might be opportunities because if I still have that mindset, it'll allow me to be crazy on some calls, right? You look at SanDisk again today, and I'm like, is SanDisk gonna be a $350, $400 stock before the year is out? So those are things I look at. All right, I think that's it. Also, Netflix, right? Disappointing. I mean, disappointing. I made money on Netflix calls this week, but I wanted to play for a move to $1,200. Thankfully, I didn't get the calls at the open, right? It was 1140, I think. Then it dipped, and then I'm looking for other names. I'm like, I don't want to go too aggressive, and then it just kept dipping. Got all the way down to 1107, and then I was looking later today. I'm like, do I want to play some calls? And here it is, it's down 3%. Just surprising to me. But that'll be split effective Monday, so it'll be $110 stock. I don't know if I'm going to trade it, but all right, that's it, folks. Have a great weekend. I'll be back rock and roll.